Good evening, everyone. Here again, Joji Palahang. Today's topic is basically we will identify or investigate an ANAM safety. So, as all of you guys in different programming languages, we have enums, which we have defined a string representation, but it has different value. So I'm not really into C sharp development. I came from JavaScript and Java background, but technically almost they have the same scripting languages. But there are some a little bit of differences, like naming convention. But in this demo, I would like to discuss basically they had the same target, but the same in different programming languages. So for today's activity, we will be creating a simple program to investigate the safety of enumeration types. Okay, so enumeration types, you can have a label value. Basically, it's enums or enumerations that can be easily understood by a programmer or software developer, but has a underlying value. So first, one of the procedure was written in C++ and one on the C sharp. So here, it was requested to have 10 possible scenarios. So I just created a simple program, basically with some scenarios, understanding the problem. I come up with these definitions. So let's start with enumeration types demo with C++, and later on with the same scenario, we'll discuss also uncover using C sharp. Okay. So first, let's understand. Initially, I have explained what is enumerations. So here I have a main function. I have defined two enums, which is color and suit, which has values of red. Red has a original value of 1, green and 2, blue will be 4. Same for suit. So what is the one scenario? So implicit conversion to int. So as you can see, we have labels. Red, the integer value will be 1. So without as you go through with your development, you might easily, okay, since this is a number, then I can assign also to number. That is one scenario of enumeration types or strategy. And some scenario also we have arithmetic between enum to integer. So as your code and program grows and grows, sometimes there are some scenarios that we might forget that is an enum. When we assign that reference to another variable, we might use that as an counter or say counter, or we can use it for loop conditions or control flow conditions. So one of them is related to this one. Arithmetic conditions, we do some operations as you see here. Number 3, we have also, earlier I mentioned the incrementing enum variable. So you have a variable that is defined as an enum, but later on you will have addition, overflowing enum. Why it was called overflowing? As you see, we have defined our enum color here, which is C1, instantiated variable name. As you can see, we already increased the value, but instead we don't have those reference. Okay, comparing both enum, integer value, but sometimes we use different values on the label or enum. So we need to be careful. It's valid, but maybe logically, along the way, you will encounter some issue. Using enum as an array index, I do suggest, if you're playing with JSONs and objects, let's try to reduce as much as possible. If you can use map to identify the object, enum is really great, especially defining constants and everything. But in terms of coding, it will be safe to use a proper naming conventions, use a proper variable names, unless otherwise you're too much confident using the enums as your reference. It would be great to avoid as much as possible. Uh, Bitwise operations. So as you know, we have specific value for each enums. So mm, same scenario, assigning row integer. It could be an overflow. Maybe the value is not available to enum defined. It will be better always be safe using the label that we have. Checking size. Enums is a fix. It might uh, uh, it might be same, but it's to be in the safe side. Always use in the proper way. Same goes with the C sharp. Um, we have safety strongly types assignment, unsafe silly implicit conversion. We have, oh, sorry, okay, I'll start from the definition. We have user role here. So we have guest, member, and admin as our enums and permissions. So to demonstrate, these are the possible enumeration types. What was the term used? Enumeration types. So here we have safety, a safe, strongly typed assignment, unsafe conversion. As I mentioned earlier, it might be the value will be lower or upper. It should be specific. Let's use the label as much as possible. Using enum is defined just to make sure that if it's available, enum operation that is safe. Comparing enum to invalid integer, as I mentioned, we don't know the possible values that we have defined above. So the value during the execution, it might change along the way. So just to be safe, that's a silly one. Safe, and the hash flags methods, bitwise and non-flag legal variables, unsafe negative enum values, iterating through enum values. Yes, it's an object, so you can iterate as well. I couldn't execute this code on my local machine due to some limitation. As I mentioned, it's kind of R&D study that I have created, and hopefully you get a. I wish I could have same version in Java, but as for the Java or JavaScript, but as for this requirement, we are obliged to use C plus and C sharp. Thank you, and that's all.